Live, this is AM Agenda with Kieran Gilbert.
Good morning and welcome to the program. A number of cabinet ministers that voted for Tony Abbott have come out this morning again and reiterated their support for the new Prime Minister. One of them, the cabinet minister and well-respected finance minister, Matthias Cormann. Let's have a listen to what he had to say to the media this morning.
The party made a decision. I support unequivocally our new leader. I'm a team player. I always have been, always will be. Malcolm Turnbull will have my complete and absolute and unequivocal and loyal support as Prime Minister, and I will of course support his efforts in whatever capacity he sees fit.
With me now, the Assistant Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, and Parliamentary Secretary to the Shadow Treasurer, Ed Husic. Gentlemen, good morning to you. It must be difficult times for individuals like Matthias, I guess yourself as well, given how critical the Prime Minister was, the new Prime Minister was, of the economic agenda of the government thus far, the fact that you're not meeting the goals that you should be.
Well, look, I think all the ministers, be they Turnbull supporters or Abbott supporters, are in limbo as we wait for the decision of the Prime Minister as to who his cabinet and outer ministry will be. That's his prerogative. He was voted emphatically in as the leader of the Liberal Party by the party room, and this is a decision that is in his hands.
You say you're in limbo. Would you prefer a decision earlier? It sounds like you're frustrated that you're in limbo.
No, not at all. Look, these decisions have major ramifications, and they need some time to work through. I think you know, it's absolutely appropriate that Prime Minister Turnbull is taking this time to make these decisions, and I'm sure they'll be very good decisions. And it has to be said, he had a very strong start yesterday in the Parliament. He's now reached an important agreement with the Nationals, and our responsibility is to deliver good government to Australia, and I'm very confident that Malcolm Turnbull will do that.
But just in terms of that question of Cormann and yourself now as a finance economics minister, given the characterisation of the government's form in this regard by the Prime Minister ahead of the challenge, is it hard then to, you know, man the barricades, get out there and make the economic case, given now the man in the top seat was so critical of the performance thus far when it comes to the economic argument?
Well, Malcolm Turnbull made the point that he wants a stronger economic message and that we can all do better, and I accept that. And Australia has some major economic challenges ahead. There's also some very positive signs across the economy, and I'm very proud of what the Abbott government was able to achieve in terms of its economic agenda. It's certainly its second budget was very well received, and Joe Hockey as Treasurer led from the front through the G20 presidency in that important role and a number of other areas. So I look back on the last 2 years with pride, and I look forward to the next year while we're still in government before we defeat Bill Shorten in the next election with great confidence and optimism.
Is Labor a bit rattled by the new leader? I guess you'd be a little bit worried when you look at the immediate bounce in the polls. I think it's 57-43 in Canning according to the Reachtel survey, and it's preferred Prime Minister 70% Mr Turnbull.
I think look, you've got to acknowledge that we're going through the exhale effect. You know, everyone's taking this deep breath out now that Tony Abbott's gone, and they're happy to see the changes. But
Pilates politics.
Pilates politics, indeed. They're doing their crouching. I'm not even going to go through the positions. But
that's a movie. That's a movie, by the way. It's not a Pilates position,
isn't it?
See, that's how many Pilates classes I've done.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's the movie.
Downward Abbott. Can I say that one?
No.
Okay.
That's rude.
Says more about your mind. So, but the point I was going to make is this. So we've got this exhale effect. People sort of, you know, Tony Abbott's moved on, new guys in. Absolutely, it makes it a lot more competitive right now. And I think anyone who says otherwise, I think it's just false bravado, and we should just, you know, get to it. I think there are some key issues though. Let's just deal with the one, Kieran, that you posed to Josh. Yeah, I certainly, and again being realistic, you know, these type of cabinet decisions, who goes where, and you know, putting people in certain positions, not easy, take a bit of time. But he certainly, Malcolm Turnbull, right now, given that he made the economy one of his core criticisms of Tony Abbott and a justification for pursuing the leadership, he should be making a decision on Treasurer right now, because the economy, is growing under trend growth, unemployment up, debt and deficit up. We've got wages growth hardly registering a pulse, and living standards falling. Got to get moving on the job, got to get the economy moving, announce the Treasurer today and sort out the other positions later.
I did think that was possible, that Mr Turnbull would announce that so that the Treasurer would be sworn in alongside Malcolm Turnbull and Julie Bishop the other day. But do you think that it's possible, well, not that Julie Bishop had to be sworn in again, I guess, but she was in attendance at the Government House. Do you think it's possible that Joe Hockey stays?
Well, look, these are decisions for Malcolm Turnbull. They're way beyond my pay grade.
There's no chance.
This is all
you just said he's in limbo.
I said we're all in limbo.
Should the Treasurer be in limbo? I mean, it's a crucial position.
Look, I think the key point here, Kieran, is that
when
Malcolm
did you have
Turnbull
the flexibility to be in limbo?
Actually make. I think the key point here is that Malcolm Turnbull will decide his cabinet and his outer ministry all at once, and I'm sure they'll be sworn in due course.
Well,
that's his prerogative. It's absolutely appropriate right now that he's taking the time to make these considered decisions. But to answer some of the points raised by my good friend here, Ed Husick.
Stop calling me a good friend on air.
I know,
do you know how bad that is for me?
I want to cost you votes in the leadership of the Labor Party.
Oh, yeah. If I'm going for leadership of the Labor Party, get yourself into air crash race position.
We inherited an economy where jobs growth were 2,000 a month. As the Treasurer told the Parliament yesterday, jobs growth is now at 21,000 a month. Yes, economic growth was at 0.2% for the June quarter. That was on the back of 0.9%.
But the business community have been pretty clear that they've welcomed the elevation of Mr Turnbull, haven't they?
Of course the business community
and the effects test?
want a continued development of an economic reform agenda. Now, that is firmly underway. We've got the biggest rollout of new infrastructure projects that Australia has ever seen, which is a wonderful legacy of Tony Abbott. We've seen more than $2 billion cut from red tape. We've got a fault line now in the Parliament over the China-Australia Free Trade Agreement, which we'll continue to prosecute.
Right.
And there's actually a very good spot.
You mentioned the effects test, the competition law, but I just want to mention to you that, clarify, because there have been some suggestions that Turnbull has agreed to change it. He hasn't. He's agreed to have a cabinet discussion about the effects test or the change of the competition law. That's what he's agreed to. So why not have a full cabinet discussion about it?
So is he fair income or not? Well, they did have a discussion and then decided to take it off the table.
They didn't get to cabinet in the first place.
And the question is, at the first economic test...
He's having a discussion.
Now, hang on a second. Well, the first economic test, Kieran, as to whether or not they proceed, he's ignored all the concerns within the business community about the imposition of an effects test and what that will do to competition and what that will do broader in terms of
he's not.
Economic
he hasn't
impact.
made a decision.
Well, okay, so is he a serious economic player or not? Because if he's saying as part of the process, and this is reflective of what he's doing, he's junking his values, he's junking his positions to try and bring people together within the coalition.
What area?
What area? Okay, let's go through it. Climate change. He said direct action was a dud. He said it was extravagance on a grand scale. Yesterday he became its best BFF in Parliament.
But now he's saying now that it's implemented, there are measures in place and it's working.
Kieran, you asked me for some examples. You did that. And on marriage equality, a few weeks ago he was saying we didn't need a plebiscite, the power was in Parliament to do it. Yesterday he was arguing the case we should go to a plebiscite.
He still supports same-sex marriage, he still supports action on climate change.
But my argument is he's got the leadership under false pretense. He's made himself out to be one thing, and then once he's got in, he's ditched everything, and he's dashed the hopes of those people that expected better out of him as leader.
Isn't it true that under Greg Hunt, that this scheme that is in place with the emissions reduction fund, the penalty mechanism against those that go beyond business as usual levels, and the renewable energy target, when combined, you effectively, and if you allow permits bought offshore as well, you effectively have a carbon price if you scale it up. It's the thing is, Tony Abbott just never made a point of arguing that because he wasn't as convinced about the need to act on climate change.
Well, this is a market-based scheme, and what we're looking for is the lowest cost of abatement. And in our first auction process, it was a huge success. Actually, the cost of emissions reduction per tonne was 1/93rd of the cost under the carbon tax. So no wonder Malcolm Turnbull is strongly supporting that policy, and it's also through the Parliament, which is very important in this regard. And we have very responsible and ambitious targets that we're taking to Paris, the 26 to 28% reduction, which, as the new Prime Minister said very clearly in the Parliament yesterday, is very good compared to other comparable economies. So I think on those two issues, it's very clear.
Same-sex marriage as well?
On the issue of same-sex marriage, and you know, of course, there were differing views in the party room, but Malcolm Turnbull heard those views in the party room, and the party room voted in favour of keeping the existing definition for this Parliament, and then going to the vote of the Australian people, effectively through a plebiscite, and then an open vote in the Parliament.
He heard those views, and then he went out and argued against them.
Yeah, but
he's now Prime Minister, isn't he?
We're part of a team, right? And on an issue like that, we've got actually a good plan going forward. You, on the other hand, Ed, have this very weird construct where you're going to allow your members to have a conscience vote for the next couple of years, and then you're going to take their conscience away from them. I didn't know that conscience was voluntary.
And
we're saying we will do it within 100 days of shortened government.
There were doubts as to whether Tony Abbott, you know, said, OK, plebiscite. There was a sense among those who argued for same-sex marriage that was a delaying tactic. With Turnbull, there's no such sense, is there? You know that if he's Prime Minister beyond the next election, they're promising a plebiscite. He'll deliver the plebiscite.
And he argued against that plebiscite. He argued that the Parliament had the power to make that change. And as much as there's references to party room discussions and listening to it, he went out there after that and said it. And this is the problem. And the other thing is too, Josh, I sat in these interviews through the last term of Parliament and was told how bad it was that Prime Ministers were being torn down, and you guys were merciless on this point. And you have, within one term, the shortest lived Prime Minister gone in one term. Now, we paid a price as a Labor Party on it, and we changed our rules, and hence the stability in our side. You guys need to recognise that you have, by your own words, condemned yourselves in tearing down a first-term Prime Minister, and Malcolm has done that on the basis of ditching all his values and views to get to that point.
Well, let the Australian people be the judge of that. They were the judge in your case, and they gave you the lowest primary vote in 100 years. In our case, we've just had a nice spike in the polls, and hopefully we can carry that through to election day.
Be careful about reading too much in that. We got that too.
Quick break. Back in just a moment with Ed Husick and Josh Frydenberg.
The China-Australia Free Trade Agreement is good news for dairy farmers like Damien, and it'll be good news for Australia too. The agreement with China will mean more customers for Sally's Mining Services Company, and that means more local jobs. The China deal is a big deal for Australian food exporters and for Rogers meat processing business in Dubbo. If this deal is blocked, all Australians lose. Go to supportfreetrade.com.au and tell your local member to support the free trade agreement with China. Authorised by B. Pearson, Canberra.
Hi, Siobhan.
Hi, Bob. The bank manager's here.
So, Bob, what can I do for the bank?
I've got a few ideas.
I hope this isn't about shifting our staff super.
Well,
It's not about you or me.
No?
No. They're after a fund that's about them.
What?
Banks aren't super. So keep your super in good hands.
Sergey, who is calling this time?
His baby Mirpa.
My name is Oleg. Please look after me. Oh. Oh, okay, but you are changed nappy, Sergey.
When life changes, call Compare the Market first. The health insurance comparison experts. Call 1-800-001-007 or go to comparethemarket.com.au.
We all want different things in life. Like finally going on that trip you'll never forget. Or maybe you just want to take charge of your finances. Well, that's why Citi have brought out a flexible personal loan at just 6.9% per annum for 3 years, with no monthly or annual fees. And you can track it all on Citi's mobile app. Go online to citibank.com.au/loans or call 1300 787 139 today.
Loving you.
Out here, you can keep it clean.
How can I ever change things?
Or just get it done.
You can go your own way. You can go
A subconscious, a knack for predicting the future. Reflexes faster than the speed of thought. Can a business have a spirit? Can a business have a soul? Can a business be alive?
This is AM Agenda. With me, the Assistant Treasurer Josh Frydenberg and Parliamentary Secretary to the Shadow Treasurer Ed Husic. Ed, in terms of the reaction to the Turnbull Prime Ministership, the fact that he's got to the top job, there have been some really extraordinary responses to this. I guess this morning I heard Bill Shorten on with Alan Jones, and I haven't heard an interview like that with a Labor leader before. It was a very positive, friendly interview, and you don't normally characterise that sort of interview with that particular broadcaster. It's an interesting reaction.
I think there are a lot of people that are uptight within Liberal ranks about the point that we were discussing just before we went to the ad break, that taking down a first-term Prime Minister in the way that they did was something that went against the beliefs of a lot of Conservative voters. They're very upset about it, and they're very concerned about what this means for the direction of their party. So
I'm
clearly,
glad you're in touch with Conservative voters.
Well, I try to appeal. I'm crossing all lines here. I'm trying to give the people what they want. So
a few in Chifley, I hope.
Well, but I do take the point you've got to be able to talk with all different people. Regardless, you don't just talk to the people that vote for you. You talk for every.
You represent everyone.
Talk with everyone, right. and I imagine that will be the case, because I have had people who are Conservatives in the Chifley electorate make those points on social media and have raised that with me about their concerns. So that's something that they're going to need to deal with. But ultimately, as I said, we were castigated for the disunity and for the destabilisation, and we paid a price. And these guys, kept saying, we will be different. We will not be like this. We will be an adult government. And they've shown otherwise.
Well, your view on that point, the first point that Ed made there about the reaction within the base of the Liberal Party, basically?
Well, I think it would be mixed. Certainly there were some Abbott loyalists within both the party room and the party base, but there were also others who wanted to change. What are you picking up in Kooyong? Well, certainly I'm getting a mixture of views, and I wrote to all my members yesterday explaining my position and why I supported Tony Abbott in the leadership ballot. But right now my responsibility is absolutely to get behind Malcolm Turnbull, and that's what the party needs, that's what the government needs, that's what the country needs. And Malcolm does bring great expertise in business, entrepreneurial background. He's a self-made person. He's been a very successful Minister, and I have no doubt he'll be a very successful Prime Minister, and he does need our support to go forward, and I'm sure he'll get it.
On Tony Abbott's speech, his farewell speech in the courtyard of Parliament House, it was a dignified speech in saying that he loves the country, and I guess warmly received in that sense. But in the other, some of the points he made, I guess, have raised some questions in relation to talking about media and leaks and so on, and it's been pointed out that there were no such complaints when Rudd was being torn down, and I guess, as well as I've heard from many of your own colleagues, there were complaints during the Abbott government about leaks from his office, and quite consistent leaks, and ones that not only were to the benefit of the government, but sometimes it was suspected were to the detriment of some of your colleagues. So it just seemed it's a bit incongruous, that message to the media, when in government, on the rise to government, it seemed a very different approach from Mr Abbott.
Well, a few points. I think he was opining on the general nature of media coverage now, particularly political media coverage in this country, where there is constant commentary, there are constant polls. You see both the online and the print, the radio and the television. He did point out that there's more character assassination in today's politics. I think that is just a statement of fact. As for those claims and counterclaims by people who responded to Tony Abbott's speech, I think that's best forgotten, because we now have a responsibility to not relitigate some of those previous differences, Kieran, but to get on and deliver good government to the Australian people.
Some of them should have taken a leaf out of the Frydenberg book. You just don't attack the media, you accept there's someone, I was reading the quote
John
the other day.
Howard.
I was reading the quote the other day. I can't remember where it was. It was like, was it Enoch Powell who said, politicians complaining about the press is like a ship's captain complaining about the sea. It's like, this is, fundamentally what you've got to deal with, and you've got to deal with it appropriately. I think
sound like John Howard. That's exactly what he was saying yesterday.
Well, I think there is something in that, and there's another point. And can I just make another point? You reflected on the performance of Tony Abbott in his final speech, and I've seen this in departing leaders regularly. And this is not a political point, right? But everyone says the final speech is the best speech they've given, because they're open, they're engaged, they're a lot more reflective, and it really says something about Australian politics, where we're at, that has to be the final speech that's the best. Really, they should all, and I'm not talking about speech writing and the art of speech writing, it's about the authenticity of us being able to be open with people. I think that's an important part of the process of us being able to prosecute the case.
I think it's a very good point, and sometimes in this business, we all are too prepared, and effectively it's times like that which are unscripted where people do open up, and I think you're right. I think the public want that more often from their leaders.
We need to be more YOLO. We need to be more YOLO, as the youth say.
Right.
You only live once.
Oh, gotcha.
I thought you were going to say art.
Oh, gosh.
I didn't even know.
He's pretending he's not a hipster. He's pretending he's not a hipster.
I thought you were talking about a yogurt or something. Let's just extrapolate on that a little bit. Obviously, we all know individuals that have been affected by the events of the last few days, and at a human level, it's obviously very difficult for them, and I have compassion for those involved, the staffers, and who I've worked with for a long time, and some of them with young kids and so on. So obviously we all wish them well in that sense as well. So we have to remember, not just for Tony Abbott, who of course has given so many years to service of this country at his, an enormous
and will
level.
continue to give that service, Kieran, because I don't think he's got any intention. No, I don't think he will, and he will represent the people of Warringah. He'll now have more time to do that. But you're right, these tumultuous events, these momentous events, do have a real ripple effect on so many people. But that is the nature of politics, and none of us are conscripts. We're volunteers, and we have to accept that that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
And we wish the staff, obviously, all the best. Especially some of them have just gone to the office as well. It's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we went through this, really heart-wrenching. Well, it was pretty heart-wrenching, and it has an impact.
Time as the first?
No, they're never good, my man. Like they are terrible, terrible episodes in parties, and it is very difficult. Well, but in the sense that the type of things that Kieran was reflecting on, the type of things that you talked about, and it's also hard too, particularly when you. Well, I mean, I also took a position in some of those previous ballots where you've got to give up your position. If you argued against the top person vehemently, you've got to do the right thing by the party and step aside. And there are some people I think should be making that decision quite freely of anyone tapping them on the shoulder.
We've got to go, unfortunately, but just to end the discussion, YOLO. It is YOLO.
Yeah, and it's not a yogurt, okay?
No, but you only live once. It was a lovely uplifting message from you this morning.
YOLO is
I try my best and often fail.
Is it the Norwegian version of Yoplait, is it?
It could be. Well, you're big on foreign affairs, you'd know.
No, big on yogurt.
Next show we do, yogurts of the world.
Kitchen Cabinet.
Josh Frydenberg.
Are you on Kitchen Cabinet coming up to break an exclusive on another
That's
network?
another station.
Okay, I should have said that.
There's an embargo.
Thanks, gents. We're going to go.
Respect an embargo.
Quick break, back in just a moment.
Unbelievable.
The China-Australia Free Trade Agreement is good news for dairy farmers like Damien, and it'll be good news for Australia too. The agreement with China will mean more customers for Sally's Mining Services Company, and that means more local jobs. The China deal is a big deal for Australian food exporters, and for Rogers Meat Processing business in Dubbo. If this deal is blocked, all Australians lose. Go to supportfreetrade.com.au and tell your local member to support the Free Trade Agreement with China. Authorised by B. Pearson, Canberra.
Hi, Siobhan.
Hi, Bob. The bank manager's here.
So, Bob, what can I do for the bank?
I've got a few ideas.
I hope this isn't about shifting our staff super. It's not about you or me.
No?
No. They're after a fund that's about them.
What?
Banks aren't super. So keep your super in good hands.
Save time and effort cleaning your car with the Bissell Auto Spot Cleaner. It'll take care of those hard-to-remove stains from your car's interior. Pick up one today for just $199. Exclusive to Super Cheap Auto.
We all want different things in life. Like finally going on that trip you'll never forget. Or maybe you just want to take charge of your finances. Well, that's why Citi have brought out a flexible personal loan at just 6.9% per annum for 3 years, with no monthly or annual fees. And you can track it all on Citi's mobile app. Go online to citibank.com.au/loans or call 1300 787 139 today.
All eyes are on you. But they always are when you're fighting to be number one. You know that if you create the right environment, you'll have what it takes to bring it home. Introducing The Business.
Have a good evening.
Flying coast to coast. A new world standard in domestic business class.
First it was just Sakitha and I. Now with little Mia, we're a family.
It's been a learning curve, but with HCF, I've had peace of mind.
One of the best things was how easy it was to transition between the different life stages. It was actually completely seamless. The service level was just amazing. Everyone we've spoken with, they've all just been so helpful and friendly.
HCF has always given us great value for money. It's so reassuring to know that we have cover for all the things we need at a price that suits us.
As a young family, we love being with HCF.
At Hotels Combined, we compare the top travel sites.
For free.
That's right, and we guarantee to find you the best deal. Finding a great hotel deal is easy with Hotels Combined.
Too easy.
Check out Hotels Combined
today. Coverage. This is Sky News Live, Channel of the Year.